keeping you up to date with the latest in Texas Tech sports. This is the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into Ask Level podcast edition, episode number 7. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman, post Oklahoma State game. And finally, we've arrived at the bye week. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Level, just toss it right out to you. Thoughts on what you saw in Stillwater?
Well, it's just I'd asked myself the question before this past weekend's game. How will I feel if it's kind of the same thing that we've seen versus Kansas State and NC State? And I don't know what it is with a state in front of and then a state behind it that you go on the road and just play a close game and just not quite good enough to do it. So there's some good and I guess some. I guess the bottom line is, and you heard this, Choice, but talking to Coach after the game, there's just a sense of frustration. We can sit here and we can talk about, oh man, you're just not good enough, and how angry and frustrated and like you just screwed this play call up, or you can't get a takeaway here, or how do you miss a field goal, or how do you fair catch it on your own 5-yard line. There's all these different things, but trust me, that they are very frustrated too. And the one thing that I hope for them is that they continue to like play really hard, because that's what they are absolutely doing. No one can deny that they are straining. They're playing hard. It's just a matter of not being quite good enough to overcome a few mistakes, or just like maybe losing the battle on special teams versus Oklahoma State. But, it's your third starting quarterback in 6 games. I mean, like what's going on here? I mean, it's just, that just seems to be the way it is at Texas Tech, unfortunately. And I mean, again, I think they were dead on. I mean, you can win games with all 3 of them. And I don't know where that position goes. We can get into that certainly. And I have some thoughts there, but that's my thought. I don't know really how to feel, because I just know that they're very frustrated. Joey was very frustrated, maybe the most frustrated that I have seen him, but they're doing some good things too. And they're doing some things where, that you can build off of it, but all anybody cares about is you're 3-3 and 1-2 in the league. And that's all Joey cares about. Trust me. Yeah.
You've been around this a lot longer than I have. It seems like there's coaches to me that, will say the right things in front of the public and that, but then you get them behind closed doors and it's like, man, this is going to be really tough, or we really don't stand a chance. But Coach McGuire truly believes they should go in and win every single game, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think they don't feel like they've been outmatched at all. I think that now, again, I think there's some things like, okay, if we do this list,
sure.
And I talked to Coach before the game, and there was a fairly long list of things that he felt like you needed to do to win that game, but you do some of them, just not all of them. And that's kind of that's where you're at right now, and in some ways, because first of all, it's hard to go in Stillwater. It just is. That they always seem to be very good. They're well coached, as we saw. They're explosive. They're just solid, and you got to go beat them. And you tried a few things, and you had a different quarterback, and you tried to put a game plan around him that would work. And I think it did for the better part of the game, especially the first half of the game, until he kind of was a bit compromised with an ankle issue. That thankfully it wasn't worse than that. But I also think that this is going to be a process, and that's the frustrating part for them and for us and for all involved, is that it doesn't happen overnight. You wish you were 5-0 and that game day was at Oklahoma State, over the weekend, but it wasn't. Because all anybody cares about is the result, and the result is what matters, and the result is what makes news. It's not, nobody feels sorry for you that you had a variety of different starting quarterbacks, and nobody feels sorry for you that you don't have maybe your twitchiest receiver against Oklahoma State, no Miles Price. I mean, would I love to replay that game as is with Miles Price in there? Absolutely. Do I think it would have made a difference? Yes, but that's not how it works.
So, in your opinion level, is Oklahoma State the best team in the Big 12 right now? Just from all that you've seen.
You know what? I'm going to give you a bit of a curveball.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a bit of a curveball.
I was never good at hitting the curveball. So,
you know who I think the best team is right now?
I don't. If it's not Oklahoma State, Texas.
I think with Quinn Ewers at quarterback, I think Texas might be the best team in the league right now. Just a snapshot, because look at. And I think TCU maybe has an argument there. Oklahoma State is clearly at the top or in that argument. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I just I came away yesterday or that game over the weekend, and I said to myself, Texas I think is better than Oklahoma State. Now, it doesn't mean that Texas will beat Oklahoma State after just seeing them up close, because I think Texas is better on defense. I think, and I think Ewers, who the Red Raiders didn't see, I think he's got a chance to increase their margin for error and all that. But that's an interesting conversation. I think that is one. Oklahoma State's going to win plenty of games. And here's the thing: Oklahoma State plays TCU and Texas in the next 2 weeks. So guess what? It's about to be show and tell. And if Oklahoma State wins both of those games, then guess what I'm going to tell you? They're the best team in the – because we're going to find out. The ones that we're kind of sitting here debating on, I don't know when Oklahoma State and Kansas State play, but I just to me, Kansas State, as good as they are, I don't know if I trust them offensively as much as they lean on two players. I just don't know if I trust them to say that they're the best team because, man, if Deuce Vaughn or Adrian Martinez go down – I just don't know if that is sustainable. I just don't. I think Oklahoma State's got a bit more. I think they're better than Kansas State right now. Again, just having seen them in person and seeing what I'm dealing with. But I think the Red Raiders, that win against Texas is, and that loss for Texas, depending on what your viewpoint is going to be a really big one for Texas Tech, and it's going to be one that I think hurts Texas because I think think about it. We've already told you they have the best skill in the Big 12, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some pieces on defense that overall I think they're getting better. And they've had their moments, but that's just, again, maybe it's a slim margin, but I didn't mean to have such a long answer there. But I just think that I think Texas has a chance to kind of start reeling them off here a little bit. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying that just because they hammered Oklahoma over the weekend. But, yeah, if you're asking me, is Oklahoma State the best team? I'm not so sure. Because I think there's an argument that can be made for Texas and for TCU.
When's the last time we've gotten to the halfway point in the season and you can make an argument for 3 or 4 teams to be the best in the league? I mean, usually it's pretty clear cut at this point. Parity
is run amok, and that's why you're in the midst of in the middle of it, because I think you're at this point kind of a middle of the pack team. Uh-huh. I look at you compared to like Iowa State, and I think you have so much more offense than they do. They're really struggling just to score points. I look at you. We'll find out about you versus West Virginia here in a couple of weeks, which I think would be a very big game for the Red Raiders, and it probably will be for West Virginia too for some different reasons. But I just know if you're telling me, because I think you've played in your 3 conference games, you may have played the 3 best ones. I guess that's the point of what I was trying to bring to you. Now, that doesn't get you anything. You won one of them, lost 2, and it doesn't mean that is actually right. I just know you've played some of the best skill the league has to offer. You're going to come up in some of these weeks, and you're not going to have to face like an NFL type back or a quarterback that's been there for forever, or a defensive line that's been there for forever and whatever. So not that it gets any easier, but I just, that's a long way to answer a question in that you've played some really tough teams, maybe the best teams. And I don't know who the best team is, but if you're asking me right now and you want me to pin it down, I would say that the one team you beat may be the best one. And it's so much of my answer has to do with Ewers at quarterback compared to what they are with Hudson Card.
Now, we've got 10 minutes into this thing and haven't mentioned really Behren Morton and what we saw on Saturday. Okay. We sat there and spoke with Coach Titley, and he really didn't know what to expect in the game because he talked about the talent is just oozing. Behren Morton.
Talent's never been a problem with
but
Behren.
he's still really raw, and we got to see the talent kind of went out on Saturday against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, with Behren, it's an experience issue. It's not a maturity. That's not the right word for it, but I
don't think that's a negative thing to say maturity.
Well, he's younger, right? Yeah, and it's a consistency issue, and that's the problem with Behren's situation is that when people see him in the spring in either scrimmage or red and black game scenarios, the offense just moves.
Yeah.
And too often when you kind of hear, man, it's just Behren didn't have a great week or whatever. But I think that's just who he is. So he either is going to have to start to get better in the middle of the week, or Zach and Joey and whoever's kind of in that decision are going to have to say, we have to live with some of this if he's just going to be that good under the lights kind of thing. Because here's the thing, coaches want to trust, they want to know what they're going to get. And it's hard to have trust and know what you're going to get when it doesn't look as consistent as it needs to do in the middle of the week. However, you could throw all that out, and bottom line is he deserves to start more, I think, or start another game, the next one, I think, assuming his ankle is okay.
Sure.
Because it did look, and I like the game plan of getting rid of the ball quicker, because I think it protected your offensive line. Now, some of these teams you're gonna have to kind of morph that and kind of get better at it. But that was the weakness for Oklahoma State, the perceived one, is that they're inexperienced at linebacker and in the secondary. And I think you were able to take advantage of it for a better part of the game. However, Oklahoma State adjusted, and then you really didn't have any answers. So, but this is just it's just wild. The third starting quarterback in 6 games is just crazy to me. But that's welcome to Texas Tech, everybody. I mean, this is just kind of what has to happen around here, unfortunately. And I think I saw this, that Oklahoma, I think I told you this over the weekend, Choice, that Oklahoma was starting their first game with their backup quarterback for the first time in like 6 or 7 or 8 years or something.
Yeah, I think you said 2014.
14, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So it's just, yeah.
I mean, and the last time Tech didn't.
I know.
Was able to start one quarterback for a full season was 2016 with Patrick Mahomes. That's the last time Tech did.
He played dinged up in some of that season as well. He was compromised at times. So anyway, it's just it's been a wild. I just hope that you continue to play as hard as you've been playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you do, more good things are going to happen than not. I think 4 out of your last 6 games being at home cannot be understated. I think you have to remember that. And if you can, because this next little 2-game stretch versus West Virginia and Baylor is going to be huge for this program, and just this team's bowl chances and all those kinds of things, because those are both winnable games. I think that you got to take one before the other, but I just hope that, and they need a break. This team needs to kind of mentally hit the reset button a little bit, but I hope that they, you're able to kind of hit that reset button and still come back and play as hard as they've been playing, because it's been fun to watch, and it's just frustrating though that you can't create enough takeaways and you make just enough, I don't know, miscues on special teams, or just can't take advantage of some special teams opportunities. And you maybe have a play call you'd love to have back on a 4th down or whatever it may be, but you're just right there. But and again, you have to give credit to Kansas State and Oklahoma State too. It's hard to win there. Guess what? I don't care who's been coaching or who's been quarterbacking for this program. It's been this way at those 2 places for the most part in the last 10 or 12 years. So it's tough.
Yeah. So we'll kind of put a bow on Oklahoma State there. Move on to bye week and several questions. So bye week, what does that look like for Texas Tech? You obviously have some players dinged up. Did we get to see some of them back? What's that look like?
Yeah, I think it'll be good for Miles. I think it'll be good for Adrian Fry, Miles Price. I think you should see him the next time that's what I'm going off of now. I just hope that there's no, you never know about, well, he had a setback or there was something happen in this practice or whatever. But this is typically take a deep breath. Self-scout is a big thing. Hey, what are we doing? What are we doing on certain scenarios? Let's take a look at us. What's the book on us? What are other teams viewing? Down and distance, do we run the same play? Do we go to the same side? On defense, on down and distance, are we running the same coverage? It allows you to look at a self-scout, get guys healthy, and then you go recruit. I mean, that's really where it comes into, and you give those kids off. Get them out of the routine a little bit, which is tricky for players, but I think they need the mental break as much as they need the physical one.
Yeah.
But that's what the bye week looks like. So you'll have some normal practice days this week, some downtime on the weekend, and then you hit the ground running come Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and then away you go. But yeah, there'll be some coaches out on the road, I think, next Thursday and Friday, trying to figure out ways to get better with some more players.
So looking at several questions, first one in, not surprising, from Pincher. Do we see Morton start the rest of the way here?
I think Behren will decide that, honestly. And I think when exactly is Shuck cleared and available?
Yeah.
I think it has changed into a conversation, though, between Behren and Tyler, and not Donovan and Tyler, though, at this point, because, Donovan has been dealing with, he hurt his knee versus NC State. He's played through it. Nobody really knew it. And he had a shoulder issue versus Texas that he's played through that got re-aggravated, I guess, versus Kansas State. And
is this throwing shoulder or non, or has that been specified?
Yeah, that's probably not best to get into. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I'll leave it there. But I think you want to know why he looks a little bit slower or timid in the pocket. It's just his knee's not right, and I think there's a few times where he cuts it loose, but he's just not. He doesn't have his base underneath him with a bit of a knee issue that he's again. And he's not going to get any credit for playing through it. People are they want to see the end result. I get it. And Behren showed some toughness too, playing through what he did yesterday. But this is just, I guess, welcome to Texas Tech. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. And meanwhile, Spencer Sanders just running all over the place and getting hit with it, and he seems to be fine. So I don't know. Go figure.
Is the Behren's size a concern to you at all?
No, not at all. I think his moxie, his athleticism, how quickly he gets rid of the ball, all those things are positive. It's just an inexperience issue, and it's a hey, you're gonna have to live with some mistakes here. I mean, like because the interception, again, this is just going to be part of it with a young quarterback. But the interception he throws is just a backbreaker, and you could argue, one, you fair catch a punt on the 5, and that's the end of the field where that kind of happens.
Sure,
but that was the one turnover in the game, and you just, against a good team, it's the difference. And you have to continue to point to your defense going, guys, we got to hit their quarterback more. We've got to create more opportunities for takeaways. And you look up at all the pass breakups. I mean, we a lot of PBUs. I mean, I think you had 5 for Rashad Williams. You had a couple for Tyler Owens, who started his first game, but none of those are equaling interceptions. And that's the difference between, in some ways, winning and losing games like this against a good team at their place. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And trust me, I'll take pass breakups all day, because I think you've got some legit DBs with length that are competing, that are covering well. It's not been perfect. I'm not suggesting it has been, but you just got to be better with the takeaways, because what is that? Is that 8 giveaways? I think you came into the Oklahoma State game, I think, with 7 giveaways in the 2 previous road games. Then you add that total to 8 with the 1 interception. So that's just that part has got to get switched or evened out, or you're not going to be able to win games when everybody's pretty good in this league.
No doubt. Level, why did Texas Tech's offense attack the secondary so much better in the first half than the second half?
Well, Oklahoma State adjusted. One, the goal was to go the perimeter and really hit them quick with tempo. And I think they just started. Here's where not having anybody that can take the top off or having any juice to stretch the field, because you can't make them pay for it. Because they just decided, okay, we're going to get in press man coverage. We're going to kind of move, really challenge these throws and take them away, and we're going to see if anybody can get behind us, or and you just don't really. And you're dealing with a young quarterback. So, yeah, they adjusted. And I thought, to their credit, they kind of took some of that away. But that's part of a young quarterback and just not having a lot of time or a lot of juice at the receiver spots. And, you missed Miles Price. I think you missed J.J. Sparkman. But I know people – they want to hear all kinds of things, but ultimately everybody wants to just to get fixed and get a result. But I just don't see – a group of skill players that's super fast. It doesn't mean that they're not any good. And sometimes the quarterback has to throw some of these guys open. That's just the way college football is these days. You got to throw guys open. And I think you're doing that with Trey Cleveland some and things like that. But I just don't know if you have anybody that can really stretch it and burn somebody on a double move. They just don't respect your overall team speed. That's what really scares you about teams like TCU, because when I watch TCU, they look like they have a ton of team speed. And that part always increases your margin for error when you're trying to win a game, because speed kills, man. It just does.
This question from Matt. Level, did you think either of the two hits on Morton would be considered dirty?
Are we talking about the targeting one?
I'd say the targeting one, and then I guess the one that got his ankle as well.
Yeah, the targeting one, it was clearly targeting. Mike Gundy talked about that after the game. It's letter of the rule. He was disappointed in his own player for not keeping his eyes up. Yeah. I don't consider that dirty, no, because I think it's just a play and you got a free shot and it was a good hit, but it's by the definition, it's targeting. You lower and launch, and
usually they're not that clear cut, but that was pretty. Yeah,
it was the very definition of it. And the other one, I didn't like that hit. I thought he went for his legs. They give you some BS about posturing, throwing posture, some crap that I've never heard of.
He's literally throwing the football, so I don't know how.
Yeah, it's a moving target. Yeah, and for them to wave the flag off is just asinine weird to me. Yeah, but I didn't like that one at all, because I thought it was you got to protect these kids, man, when they're throwing. It's like you do the same thing if it was a kicker or punter. You can't go low and all. That's how serious injuries happen. And luckily, it appears just to be an ankle sprain, but. I just don't want to hear that from a rookie crew or whatever. And they just, my feelings on that. I just didn't think they did a good job of explaining things to Coach McGuire or talking it through on some of that. And I don't know all of it. And I'm not trying to, I know those guys have an impossible job, but at the college level, they get paid very well. And I just wish that it was a better procedure, better operation at the Big 12 level. And I just don't think it is. And again, so I'm clear, it's not why you lost.
No,
I'm just sharing.
You always have to say that. You always have to say that, because someone will come back with it.
Yep.
This question from George: what is the ceiling for Tech's record in the second half of the season?
Well, because you have 4 of 6 at home, and because there's not as many ranked teams on the back end of the schedule. I mean, at this point, I mean, can you go 4-2? Sure. I mean, and maybe you're staring at 3-3. I don't know. And so many of these teams, like, what's the injury situation going to look like going forward? Has Kansas lost Jalen Daniels for the long haul? I don't know. Or is he just out? Is he just out for the second half? I mean, that part will change it. TCU has no bye week. I mean, they're playing every single week, and so at some point that will take a toll on them, I believe. And so. But your ceiling, to me, I would say your ceiling is probably in the 4-2 range. I mean, I don't know with the uncertainty you have at QB, because I don't really know who your starting quarterback is at this very minute for the long haul. I mean, you can want it to be Behren Morton the whole time, but you're kind of one bad half away if Tyler Shuck is healthy from going, okay, Tyler, you won the job to begin with. It's your show now that you're cleared. I mean, I just don't know what all that looks like yet. And so, but I would say 4-2 is your ceiling, and I don't want to short them. I just know how tough this league is going to be week in and week out.
Sure. So, branching off of that level, who's the toughest game left on the schedule in the second half?
TCU and Fort Worth.
That's kind of where I lean, and it's like, yeah, they're 5-0, but there's still
and
so many questions.
You'll get to see it firsthand. You may go deal with Iowa State in some weather.
True.
And their defense is really, really good. They're not going to give you much at all. They have a hard time scoring points, and you may, 17 points may win that game. I don't know. But if your defense is still healthy and all those things, I think but again, it may be 20 degrees and snowing that night too, or day or whatever. You're just not real sure what you're going to get in mid to late November there. So your two remaining road trips are going to be your two toughest ones. But I expect West Virginia to have a big time sense of urgency here as they're playing for their head coach's job. And if you beat Neil and the Mountaineers, I mean, he would be 0-4 against the Red Raiders. And that's just, that's tough for them to overcome. And then obviously Baylor comes in the next week, they're going to be a handful as well. So anyway, that's kind of where, but I would say TCU and maybe Iowa State in that order as far as your two toughest games left.
Okay. So what's the floor for this team if things just,
I think you figure out I don't see them winning any less than 5 games per se. I mean, I think they're going to, 5-7 would be what that would equal. So I think you're somewhere between the, what am I saying there? The 8-5 and 5-7 range kind of thing. I mean, 8 wins, 5 wins, kind of,
Okay.
Yeah. Or 8-4, I should say. Not
8-4.
Hey, math. Yeah. Hello.
8-4 would be a,
and again, you're going to need to start to be better with the takeaways. You're going to need to start to be better on special teams and just take advantage of some situations as they present themselves, because there's been 2 field goals in the last couple of weeks, and you have to have those. That's just all there is to it. You have to figure out a way to make those, and you haven't. And that's the difference in some ways between winning and losing, especially at places like this that are difficult against good teams, and they're not going to give you a whole lot.
And the margin for error obviously just shrinks so much when you're on the road against a ranked
opponent.
Yeah, like the play at the end of the half where you end up settling for a field goal instead of being able to punch it in when you had 1st and goal from the 8 or 9. So gotta figure out a way on those. All right, Level, last question. This one comes in from John. Who is the team MVP of the first half for Texas Tech?
Well, man, that's a tough one. Your best player has been Tyree Wilson. He's been very consistent.
Yeah.
My issue with Tyree is that there's not enough. It's like, golly, I hate to get greedy here. There's not been enough game-changing plays to like change the course of a game, i.e. a strip sack or like hitting the quarterback and all that. He plays like a maniac, but it's just like there's not been enough plays to where, it really alters the game. But guy, MVP, I'd probably say Krishan Merriweather, because
that's a good answer.
Because he has been one of the most consistent, and your biggest win was against Texas, and it was because of his play on Bijan Robinson in overtime. So that's what I would give you as far as the MVP goes.
That's a good answer. I mean, what do you have? 17 tackles, I believe, against Oklahoma State. I mean, he has. We talked about how much someone was going to have to step up and fill those linebacker shoes of Rico Jeffers and Colin Schooler from last year. And Merriweather was a big part of last year too, but he has absolutely been all of this you've needed at that spot this year. And he's been good. So I like that answer. All right, Level. That wraps it up again. And
all right. Well,
enjoy your bye week this week.
You too, man. You too. We'll do it again even through the bye week. And
that's right.
And sit back and kind of take a little downtime for ourselves, as well as no Joey McGuire show this week. No game this weekend. So you can kind of sit back and just kind of watch it like everybody else does. And I love these weekends because you get to decompress for a bit and watch a ton of football, which we don't always get to do in our line of work.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, dude. Keep hope alive.
For Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. You've been tuned into the Ask Level podcast powered by Double T 97.3. We'll talk to you again next week.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.